Treylon Burks. Interesting guy here because I tell you what, I thought football Twitter liked him a whole hell of a lot more than old Matt Harmon.
23rd percentile success rate versus man, 24th percentile success rate versus press, 24th percentile success rate versus zone. The Treylon Burks truthers don't love this, but I thought that like his best comparable, like best role would be as a Juju Smith-Schuster style big slot receiver. The Titans don't agree.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
11 games, 54 targets, 33 receptions, 444 yards, just one touchdown. I thought he had more than that last year, but no, just one touchdown, a 61.1% catch rate. But tell the folks, Matt, you weren't ever really super high on Treylon Burks.
No, I was not. In his reception perception sample for during college, 80.5% of his snaps in the slot or backfield and 84% of his snaps off the line of scrimmage. We'll come back to that in just a second. We talked about what he did in the NFL. But so remember that he was mostly playing in kind of this like weird role. And, so you didn't get a lot of reps of him against press man coverage. And when you did, I don't care about what his yards per route run against press coverage. Go watch some of those plays, like yards per route run again, mostly fired into the sun, but especially in an instance like this where, the guy's like the guy covering him against Alabama, like falls down and he runs the rest of the field and all those yards are getting like, rolled into his yards per route run against press coverage. Anyways, if you go back to the college sample, 57.5% success rate versus man, 62.5% success rate versus press. Those were some of the lower numbers among the class that year. So I kind of thought he would mostly be, he'd kind of sort of continue that slot receiver role in the NFL that he had in college. Cause he wasn't terrible from a zone beating perspective, 82.2% in college. That was pretty good at Arkansas. The Treylon Burks truthers don't love this, but I thought that like his best comparable, like best role would be as a Juju Smith-Schuster style big slot receiver. The Titans don't agree. Yeah, the Titans don't agree apparently, because basically
they do not.
Like I mentioned, 80.5% of his snaps in the slot or backfield and 84% of his snaps off the line in college. The Titans, they have AJ Brown exit the situation. He's gone. And then, they just throw Treylon Burks into his X receiver role. He was on the line on 75% of his sample snaps and was outside on 83.5%. I mean, I do want to say before we get into some of the Treylon Burks profile that James, that is like learning a completely new position, being out there as the X receiver versus what he was doing in college. And I do think that's an important note.
If he was primarily a slot guy in college, didn't show you a lot of traits as a man-beating guy on the outside in college, what makes this coaching staff then say, well, obviously we're going to stick him on the outside? There seemed to be a disconnect there. And by the way, this is a very true story, but there was clearly a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff.
The general manager got fired in the middle of the season. The head coach definitely did not want them to trade AJ Brown and definitely wanted everybody to know it, because he said Mike Vrabel said before that AJ Brown trade, like, as long as I'm the head coach of the Titans, AJ Brown will be on the Titans. And then they turn around and trade him in the middle of the draft. And like, I like Mike Vrabel a lot as a coach. So I'm a big Mike Vrabel fan. But like, he was really hamming it up in the war room video, like in the draft. Like, he was really letting everybody, like, he was walking around like shaking his head as they're making the trade. So basically like holding up a sign saying, I didn't do this. Treylon Burks, like, there's just nothing really to hang your hat on here. The only thing you really hang your hat on here with Treylon Burks is like his slant route success rate is really high. His dig route success rate is pretty good at 79.2%. Like, he's great on these like crossing routes, which in the Titans offense, when they're going to, run play action and potentially bring guys up to defend the run against Derrick Henry, he's going to make some plays on those routes. But like, then we go back to the athleticism stuff, James, like he can really get rolling when he's in space, because he's got some decent like build up speed at that size. But Like he went down on first contact on 76.5% of his in space plays that I charted for reception perception. He's not like
That's
a tackle
not good.
breaker either. Yeah, he's not really a tackle breaker. So, 75% contested catch rate. He can definitely win the ball down the field, but I think he remains a really, really, really difficult evaluation. Didn't shine as a separator against press or man. Didn't really have that zone beating skill that he showed in the zone heavy slot receiver role he had in college. To bring it back to like historical comparables, I went back and looked like guys that around that 61.3% success or 64.4% success rate versus man that he had. The best I can give you is like Mike Williams, 61% success rate versus man in 2018. But again, he was better against zone coverage. 79.4%. Again, I got another Mike Williams season in here at 2021, 61.5% success rate versus man, but 67% success rate versus press, 79.7% success rate versus zone. Maybe DJ Moore when he was kind of trying to figure it out, like early in his career, but he was good. He was improving against press and was really good, 81% success rate versus zone. So I don't know. I'm struggling to see an outside receiver here, that kind of fits this Treylon Burks mold that ended up becoming a high volume receiver.
When I look through the historical database, I think a name that maybe kind of sort of jumps out to me and again, if you want to look at on the high side of what could possibly be, how about Alshon Jeffrey? Again, another big body wide receiver, especially and we're looking at 2017 Alshon Jeffrey, right? 61.4% success rate versus man. Not very good. But 77.4% success rate versus zone, also not the best. But if Treylon Burks could have somewhat of an Alshon Jeffrey type of outside X receiver type of situation, I think Titan fans would actually be pretty happy with that. Yeah. I mean, maybe not with the first round pick, obviously. Maybe that ship has already sailed. But Alshon Jeffrey in terms of body type, because Jeffrey was such a big boy, he was great. You talk about a guy that was great in contested catch situations. Like that dude could snatch the ball out the air.
Alshon, some of his best seasons were at 67% success rate versus man in 2018. Now he was again a guy that was around 78 to 77, 79% against zone, and Treylon Burks has got to get better there. Even if you're not going to separate a ton because you're not the best athlete, like Alshon Jeffrey definitely, not twitched up or anything like that. Treylon Burks, I don't think is either. Doesn't have long speed either. I think that's actually a really good comparison. Alshon Jeffrey, I think that's even better than Mike Williams, because I think Mike Williams has a little more pop than Treylon Burks does. And I think Jeffrey actually, best case scenario, would be a really good one.